A lot of this movie while watching it is just kind of taking in the visuals, the aesthetics, and the way that Fincher kind of drives you through this character. Like, I felt like I was one with Fassbender. I felt like I was right there beside him throughout each motion that he was kind of doing, and understanding the characters, seeing how they kind of operate was so cool. It felt like a combination of also a lot of great Fincher movies. You look at Seven, you look at Fight Club, you look at even Gone Girl. Like the moment in the bathroom, I just remembered seeing Rosamund Pike in it, and I was like, yeah, he's filmed this the same way. He's brought a lot of those same vibes back. And you just never know where this movie's gonna kind of go. It feels very unpredictable, yet also familiar at the same time. Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of David Fincher's The Killer. My name is Shahbaz, and joining alongside me in this room of assassins and patiently waiting are Daniel and Anthony. Daniel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I can't wait to see who kills one another first.
Is this like Clue?
Well, no, it's The Killer, so we're going to find out who the killer is. I guess it is kind of like Clue.
Yeah, that's kind of like Clue.
Right? It's Clue. It's Clue. Yeah. So welcome to Clue. No, I'm so excited. You know, going back to the early days of the movie podcast, one of the first films that we ever reviewed for Netflix was Mank. And I remember us being so excited. It was David Fincher, and us watching the movie and being like, yeah, that was great. But there was something about just David Fincher's grit and brutality that we missed. And I think we're going to talk a lot about that today. So I'm very happy.
And of course, the real assassin in here, I think the one that actually could kill and probably already has.
Guys, you don't
Anthony.
have to. You don't have to.
You're too kind. You're too kind. You're too kind.
Shucks.
Hello,
everyone. I'm doing well today. I haven't killed anyone yet, as they say.
I mean, so you say.
It's still early in the day. Early in the day.
You might hear a knock on the door.
Oh. Imagine you showed up right now beside me. I'm like, Anthony, how did you do this? That's quite a magic trick.
Do you guys ever see like those fake like it's like chat roulettes rooms where it's like somebody's like setting them up to be like, oh yeah, I'll be right back, and then it looks like it reloads, and then they show up in the next person's feed. Yeah, that's what Anthony's going to do. It's a very complicated system he has set up here at the movie podcast.
All the budget goes towards that.
That's what all of our budget goes to. All the money that we ever have made.
80 million to do this one sequence.
It's just one practical joke. That was
just to kill us all. Yeah, absolutely.
Just to kill us all as a joke.
I love it. I'm totally here for it. I'm totally here to die by the hands of Anthony. I'm pretty sure that is how you and I are going to go out, Daniel. I feel like if you and I were to die one day, just miraculously, if someone was able to kill us, Anthony would be the one to do it.
Well, I mean, who else would it be, right?
He would know all our
it's either
moves.
going to be someone from our comment section, maybe, I don't know, or it's going to be Anthony, who most likely is that person in the comment section. You know, he's just covering all of his tracks. He's very, very meticulous now.
And he knows our routine. He knows when we get up. He knows, where we live and how we take our drinks.
That's the most important part.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's like we've never been inside Anthony's house.
No.
So like, how do we even know? Like, this is all a green screen.
And he's also unpredictable when it comes to like when we go to the movies. Like, I always know Daniel gets the popcorn. I'll get like some candy and a drink. And then Anthony will be like, it just depends. It just depends on his mood. So
yeah,
I couldn't kill him.
So
I couldn't kill him. I wouldn't know how.
It's so true. You can't, because one day
you can't
I might
predict
be
him.
eating one thing, or I might not, or I might have something else, or I might come in with a sombrero. I don't know.
Sombrero. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we know how to kill Daniel. Like just honestly, like just in the popcorn. Easy.
Just in the popcorn or roll up to the house and
do it. This kernel's really
do.
hard to crack. Well, that's actually a cyanide pill, Daniel.
I don't think cyanide should be that hard to crack. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
I mean, it would just slip right in. It would be in the powder.
I think it should be a little hard to crack. 'Cause imagine like you make a mistake, like you're like one of those assassins that just has it in the corner. Oh, oops.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God.
There we go.
I'm curious in history because obviously there's a lineage of spies and spycraft and assassins the world. As fantastical as they sound, they do exist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious how many like of those like cyanide teeth or whatever in reality have ever failed or fallen out by mistake.
I feel like it's a good amount.
I'm curious what the fail rate of that is. You know what I mean? Or MI6 or the CIA, they're like, damn, like
what's the company
we got
that
a
makes
bad
them,
batch of teeth this week. So
yeah, we're doing a recall on those ones. A recall.
Yeah, anyone who has batch 72 of these teeth, make sure you go to your dentist immediately.
Out of 10, I would say a good 6. 6 out
Wow.
of 10.
That's a good amount.
That's really wait. That fail or that work?
That fail.
It's not a good. That's not a
I
good
grind
fail
my
rate.
teeth sometime in my sleep, so like I'd 100% be dead. I'm
Wear a
dead
mouth
already.
guard.
Yeah. Eating popcorn and then there you go, cyanide pill gone.
That's how I go.
Of course, if you couldn't tell, the movie that we're talking about again, like I mentioned in the beginning, is David Fincher's The Killer, which will be released in limited theaters October 27th and on Netflix November 10th. This is Fincher's. He's been with Netflix for a little while now. You know, we've had the Mindhunter series, which is so beloved, and we will champion for a season 3 any single day. And then, of course, here we had Mank that came out, and I think now it's The Killer, right? Like that's, I think, am I missing anything there?
Well, I mean, we had Mindhunter,
Love
then
and
we
Robots,
had
I think.
Mank, and then
He does
Love
Oh,
and
Love and
Robots.
Robots.
Yeah.
Is it Love and Robots? Love, Death and Robots?
Love, Death, and Robots. I believe.
Love,
That's it, right?
death, sex, and robots, I think. There's sex in there,
That's
too, isn't there?
we're just adding and cyanide pills. I don't know. I think there's
Cyanide
yeah.
pills.
It's also very scary, and like if you ever watched like the opening of a David Fincher film, like the opening title sequence, it's like just picture that, but as an
like
animated
Show
show.
with a
and-
dragon tattoo to the max.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, we want to give a huge shout out to our friends over at Netflix Canada for inviting us to come watch this movie and to talk about it. Of course, we're the Movie Podcast. You can follow us every single place at the Movie Podcast on Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter. I don't know. Is that even how they're kind of saying it nowadays?
We could just, you know what? I think let's just make a decision. You know, like, are we going to go forward and call it X? Does that make the most sense? Should we just say X?
I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, what do we have to lose? Yes, X. And then we have Instagram. We're everywhere as well that you can kind of find us. Make sure if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, or wherever you get our show, leave us a comment, leave us 5 stars, leave us a thumbs up, or wherever you can, because it really helps us out and helps us to know how you feel about what we're watching. Sometimes the comments are absolutely insane and we love that. And sometimes they're really, really sweet. And when they're really, really sweet, I guarantee you all 3 of us smile. And I don't know how I know this, but Anthony's smile, the assassin's smile, can cure a lot of diseases. That's what I've heard, at least. There we go.
Yeah. Too bad he's
one
never
more soul
smiled.
saved.
You know what I mean? That sounded like you were teeing him up for like a Chuck Norris joke. It's like, oh, Chuck
No.
Norris's tears could cure cancer. Too bad he's never cried. It's
Too
like,
bad he's
well,
never
hold on a
cried.
second.
Oh,
God. This is also a fact that you and I just watched Expendables 4 the other day, but we're not going to get into that.
We will not be talking about that film today, but
No.
stay tuned to a future main episode of the Movie Podcast where we will talk a lot more about that film.
And we just dropped some great episodes as well. We have our Killers of the Flower Moon review. We have our Spider-Man 2 on PS5 review. And we also just dropped a main episode as well. So stay tuned for more. We're going to be doing a lot more games. We have Super Mario Bros. Wonder that's out right now as well. So we want to definitely get our review out for that as soon as we possibly can. And of course, we've got so many other great things that are coming out. So stick it right here, like Daniel always says. Stick it, put your butt in the seat, put your ears to the speakers, or I don't know what else you say, Daniel. You say all these crazy things when we're driving and you say never mention them in an episode because I don't want people to know that I actually say these things.
I can't confirm or deny that. You don't know.
Just like an
You don't
assassin would
know.
say, right?
Well, yes.
Well, of course, this movie does star Michael Fassbender and Tilda Swinton, to name a few people, and of course, directed by David Fincher, and he's re-teaming with Andrew Kevin Walker as one of the writers in this film, along with Alexis Nolent and Luc Jacamon. Andrew Kevin Walker, as you'll remember, is famous for Seven, one of my absolute personal favorite films. I'm even rocking a David Fincher t-shirt right now if you're watching this on YouTube, courtesy of Daniel and Sweet Peach Creative. So go ahead and check them out also on Instagram. And of course, Daniel, thank you for making me the shirt. This was really kind of you.
You're welcome. I can't wait. So what I'm hoping happens, Shay, is because I've given you pretty much every birthday, I've given you something Seven related.
Oh man, if you look behind me.
You have a shrine of Seven back there. I'm hoping, like, if someone ever does come into your house to attack you, or Anthony, eventually when Anthony comes to take both of us,
You also haven't said like knock on wood yet. You're pretty much putting this out there at the moment.
no, I have a wood desk right here that I'm talking on. I haven't touched it yet.
I haven't now done it. I'm floating.
It's poison.
I'm floating right now. I hope they look at that shrine and be like, you know what? I'm not going to mess with this person because we need
insane.
more. We need more of him in the world.
That's what you meant. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
that's-
The crazy
exactly
thing is,
it.
you would think I would go into your house. You'd be dead before you even got into the house. Like that's how
Oh, that's so sweet, man.
Wait, so you're the one killing? So it is him killing me. Okay, good. Good to know.
I bought the house across the street.
You know what? The scariest part is the house across the street just got sold this week.
No!
It just got
I
sold
bought
this
it.
week.
I
I'm
bought
not
it.
even kidding you.
Congratulations, though, Anthony, homeowner. That's
Yeah,
well.
congratulations.
I mean, and also, sorry, Shay.
Good. It's a good neighborhood, though. We have walks every single Thursday, so if you want to join me,
and I'm not surprised
kill me on it.
Because Shay, you and I live relatively pretty close to each other, so Anthony most likely with a sniper rifle could somehow see me from here too.
Yeah,
it's like there's a big window in front of me, so as we're doing this,
Lucy Liu and Kill Bill, 20 miles away.
Exactly that.
And without further ado, let me kick it over to my good friend who would never kill me, Daniel, for your first reaction to David Fincher's The Killer.
Well, now that you said I never do it, I guess I can't do it now. Man, does it feel good to have a David Fincher film out in the world again. You know, I think not a week goes by that one of us isn't talking about a David Fincher film, you know, either The Social Network or A Girl with the Dragon Tattoo or Zodiac or Seven. Shay, you can't escape Seven. You see it everywhere you go.
I see a sin on every corner, and I can't do anything about it. You know?
all I think is Shay is like the number 7 when he wakes up.
Yeah, it's like 7. The number 23, like Jim Carrey's.
People,
like he just sees it
must
everywhere.
Literally think I'm insane. Like it's not that crazy. I'm a normal person. I promise you.
But the best part about it is that I just keep feeding it to you. Really, I'm the insane one.
You are, but the insane one. I'm making
it seem like you are the insane one.
And every time you buy one of these movies, I'm sure someone's like, I don't want to sell this to you, man. Are you crazy?
Yeah, like why? Like I think the craziest one though so far is the UMD, like a Portuguese UMD copy of Seven.
That was very fitting though.
It was fitting. So, but yeah, let's get back to The Killer. I mean, The Killer, Michael Fassbender is playing an assassin and it's directed by David Fincher. This is a dream come true for us because we haven't seen Michael Fassbender for a very long time. I think the last film that we saw him in, was it Dark Phoenix?
I mean, not including Next Goal Wins. Yes, I believe.
Next Goal Wins technically not out yet.
Also not out yet.
Also not out yet. But like to see David Fincher going back to his like brutal and just impeccably precise roots of just giving you one of the most gorgeous looking films, giving you one of the cleanest looking films. Obviously, David Fincher has been known to shoot digitally, and this film is just gorgeous. Like it is stunning, beginning to end. The cinematography is beautiful, and obviously he's reteaming with the cinematographer he worked on with Mank, who won an Oscar for that film, and with Mindhunter. But it's an absolute just dream come true, this film. So going into it, I was really just like, I just want a David Fincher film. I want almost to have that it's as comfortable as you can be in a movie like this, because on every single moment watching The Killer, you feel like you're at the edge of your seat because he is the master. David Fincher is the master of just building tension, building every moment, and then giving you something that you don't expect. And there's so many twists and turns in this movie that you feel like you would expect coming, where you feel like, okay, it's going to be a loud gunshot, or it's going to be a punch or something that happens. And then David Fincher just goes a completely different way. So throughout the entirety of this film, I just felt so tense. I just felt so I don't know what's going to happen next. And I think that's what I love so much about it. It is so stylish. Again, you know exactly the style I'm talking about when it comes to David Fincher. Right from the get-go, this movie is opening up with a killer title sequence. Not my favorite out of all the David Fincher title sequences that we've gotten in his 25 plus years of giving them to us. But it's very cool. It's very unique looking. And I think once this film comes out at home, or hopefully if we get to watch it again in theaters, I just want to like freeze frame it and see every moment, because Fincher is just the master of putting little teases to the grander film in those title sequences. But I do want to talk a lot about Michael Fassbender, who I think carries the majority of this film. The majority of this film is told through inner monologue. So he's not doing a lot of speaking dialogue in this film, but it works because he's this driving force behind it. He's so stoic and he's so eloquent in, being a hitman. And, we talk a lot about John Wick in the larger world of the Continental, where you feel like everyone is a hitman in that world, especially when they put that call out and everyone just seems like they're going to be, the entire city starts turning on John Wick. This feels like a very real take on what an assassin will look like in 2023. He uses Amazon to order stuff to, go on his missions, or he'll reference things, or like WeWork, or there's a bunch of other moments in this film where it's just like he's just getting these things off the shelf or online, and he's using very modern technology to go about his day. It felt like I was almost playing a Hitman game, like in my head, especially because like this film's broken up into chapters. I was like, oh my god, like it just feels like, okay, I'm going on a Dominican Republic mission now. I'm going on the Paris mission right now, and it's very cool. It's very linear in its layout, and I think each almost a vignette feels like a story in its own, and I think that's what Fincher really has taken from his work doing Mindhunter, where this film feels very serialized throughout, and each chapter is its own story, and I'm really excited to revisit each one because it's very unique storytelling. We don't get this very often in films where, yes, we'll get parts, we'll get different, title cards to distinguish where we are, but this really is contained within one another. And yes, they're building onto the next one, but it felt more reminiscent of the structure that we'd see either in a TV series or in a video game, that we're going almost level to level to level until it builds up. The ending felt not as strong as what we got, leading up to it, but it's still great. And if there's ever a world that we get more of Michael Fassbender as the killer, I'm so in for it because there's so much love this movie, and I really want to talk about it more with all of you.
There's so many great points that you kind of hit on there, Daniel. I definitely want to dissect it a lot further. But like you kind of said in the beginning, I'm just so happy to have David Fincher kind of back to formula, back to the form that we're so used to. I teed you up for it. I know.
Yeah, I was like, back to formula.
Back to formula. And again, it's just also so nice to also see Michael Fassbender. And I think one of the things I kept thinking about was the what if of when Aaron Sorkin was coming up with Steve Jobs and David Fincher was attached and Christian Bale was in the movie, and then Christian Bale left and so did David Fincher, and then Michael Fassbender stepped in. It's like through fate almost, they've kind of found each other in a way back to each other, even though they really weren't in the beginning. But it's nice to see what Fincher also could have done with Michael Fassbender, and they are such a pair. I would love more David Fincher movies starring Michael Fassbender. It almost kind of gave me the vibes of something how when he paired himself with Daniel Craig in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, they carry each other. They worked really well with each other. They have this unique flow to it. But Anthony, I want to get to your first reaction for The Killer.
With David Fincher, I always find that his movies tend to be noir based, and I know that this graphic novel is a noir graphic novel, and I feel like these two worlds were just meant to collide. David Fincher and his eeriness and how he undertakes a lot of his films with certain aesthetic and certain like color schemes, and taking that and putting it into a noir graphic novel about an assassin. I just feel like these are the two things you want to happen, and he did a fantastic job telling the story of The Killer. I haven't read the book The Killer or the graphic novel, but I know of it. I've heard of it. It's been talked about a lot. It's one of these indie graphic novels that got a lot of acclaim when it came out. And so getting into this movie, this is my first introduction to this character. And I just want to jump into the books now, because what we got from this film was a methodical idea of an assassin and how he goes around and deals with the things that are happening in his world. And very similar to what we get from, the John Wicks, his type of assassin is more grounded. Like Daniel said, he buys his equipment from Amazon, but he's also brutal, and he is someone who's unassuming, but also very aware of what's happening around him. He's very much like a chameleon. He wears this bucket hat, which is he wears a bucket hat. He wears these glasses. When you see him, you just feel like it's someone that you would have walked past, like someone like he literally looks like the guy from Weekend at Bernie's. When they put the bucket hat on, like just yeah. Someone that you just wouldn't assume would be, one of the deadliest people on earth. And then you hear his inner dialogue, and you hear about how he meticulously plans all his things out before he goes into one of his contracts. But then things happen where it's unexpected, and even for him. And I love that part about an assassin story where, when you hear assassin, you always think they're the best of the best of the best of the best, right? with this type of version of an assassin, with Michael Fassbender's, because we don't know his name. We're never given a name. He's just the killer. That's all we know him as.
Just a bunch of aliases, I guess. That
And
we'll have
yes, a
throughout.
bunch of alias,
Yeah.
which is it's really funny because the names that are given to him, but we don't really know his real name. He plans himself so well that even an assassin like this guy can have bad days, and that's what this movie really showcases: the bad day or the bad week this guy goes through. And with David Fincher's look, the way he approaches this character is relentless. It's brutal. It's shocking at moments. But there's also, I think, Shay, you mentioned there's comedy, or both of you guys might have mentioned there's comedy in it, and it's a great like balance of all the assassin films that I grew up on, like The Professional or La Femme Nikita, where there's a very European vibe to his character and a very European aesthetic, because some sequences take place in France, but it has like this slow, methodical pacing that you like from David Fincher. But when there are parts when the action rises, you feel it. You're embraced in it. You're like, okay, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for. And I think, with Mank and what was his movie prior to Mank?
It was Gone Girl,
Gone
I guess,
Girl.
was before that, but then we had Mindhunter.
And Mindhunters, which he directed a couple of episodes of that, as well as like what was the House of
Love,
Cards?
Sex, oh yeah, House of Cards. Forgot
House
about
of
that.
Cards was the big one too. Yep.
But this film just fits David Fincher, and I feel like he got a little bit of that Mindhunter, because he is a serial killer in a sense. He's an assassin, and he kind of blended those two worlds and made this really unique character study of an assassin and what he goes through. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to watch it again. I think I know that he used a red camera to shoot majority of it, and you could really feel like the digital crisp to it. I know that we've been talking about like film is always like so good, but I think a digital camera in David Fincher's hands, he just knows how to like capture cinematic
for sure
look to it, and I was just like floored by the visuals. Daniel, do you know the name of the cinematographer?
Eric Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Who won an Academy Award, like we were saying, for Mank, worked with Fincher on Mindhunter, and just like what you were saying, Anthony, like you put a digital camera in the right hands, obviously with any director, but Fincher especially, was really one of the first big directors to start using it all the way back. Like you look at Zodiac, and you may have even used it before, but you get something really special, I think, when Fincher gets his hands on that quality of a camera.
Definitely.
Shay, you are our Fincher head here at the Movie Podcast. Obviously, we all love him, but only one of us is wearing a David Fincher shirt right now. So clearly,
not a big fan of his movies.
I'm so excited to hear about what you thought about this film. What were you thinking about going into it, and how are you feeling now post being killed by the killer?
Oh my God. It's really interesting, because as soon as I think someone sees this guy's wearing a David Fincher shirt, he's got a shrine behind him, he's not going to have anything negative to say about this movie or criticism about this movie. But there is definitely some criticism about this film that I want to definitely touch on at some point. But this to me was just such a cool movie. I think one of the things I said to you in the car when we were driving back home was, this is the kind of assassin movie that I would have loved to have made as a kid, where, I'm writing down these tight and very calculated procedures that an assassin's doing. The first like 30 minutes of this film is really just this. I mean, the whole movie's a monologue, really, but really just this inner monologue of the patience an assassin has to go through. And I've definitely seen it a lot in movies where, they're waiting, they're doing the stakeout, but it always seems like in movies that, the cards just happen to fall at the right time, and the right thing happens at the right moment. This movie is the complete opposite of that, where he's talking about how he's been waiting 5 days to take out this one client, and nothing's really happened yet. They haven't shown up. And when that moment finally kind of gets to it, that anticipation, that build up towards that moment, and when what happens, it felt so earned. It felt so right. It felt so unlike anything that we've seen in, I mean, we've seen assassins make mistakes in movies, but the way that this kind of plays out is like, I really didn't think it would kind of go down that road. And when it did, it felt earned. A lot of this movie, a lot of the moments feel earned. There is a specific moment, though, in this film that I feel like I kind of wanted a bit more punch out of it. I kind of wanted to feel it a bit more. And I'm sure on a second rewatch, I might find what essentially he was trying to do with this moment, Fincher, and what
Is
it was
there
trying to portray.
can you give us like a
The ending
like
of the film. The ending of the
okay,
film.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha, okay.
The ending of the film, which is why I don't want to go too into it, but it's like I wonder, you know, on a second watch, will I understand what the purpose of this was? Because a lot of this movie, while watching it, is just kind of taking in the visuals, the aesthetics, and the way that Fincher kind of drives you through this character. Like, I felt like I was one with Fassbender. I felt like I was right there beside him throughout each motion that he was kind of doing, and understanding the characters, seeing how they kind of operate was so cool. It felt like a combination of also a lot of great Fincher movies. You look at Seven, you look at Fight Club, you look at even Gone Girl. Like the moment in the bathroom, I just remembered seeing Rosamund Pike in it, and I was like, yeah, this is he's filmed this the same way. He's brought a lot of those same vibes back. And you just never know where this movie's gonna kind of go. It feels very unpredictable, yet also familiar at the same time. I think that's what I kind of loved so much about it. Fassbender's so good in this movie. He's just, I loved seeing him. I love seeing him stoic, but also fun. Like we've all mentioned here so far, the movie is like a dark comedy at certain points. There's some jokes that are so earned and land so well, and of course the music. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. You think that you've heard it all from them. You think you've kind of heard everything they can possibly do, and then they take it with this and they pump it up a notch, and they give us sounds that I don't know what instrument or animal that they were using at a certain point, because you're kind of sitting there like, what makes this sound? Like,
Yeah.
Do you guys discover music by accident? Like, how does it go?
I was saying
And there was
to
almost
you-
like, yeah, it felt like almost like the Geiger counter sounds,
Yes,
like in Oppenheimer.
yes.
There was like these weird like rattlings and these
The clicks.
knocks and the clicks, and there's almost sounded like dice on a wood table. Like there's
Like
all
a
these
Foley
weird
artist's
soundscapes.
like wet dream in a way, you know?
Yeah.
It sounded like
Anthony, sorry,
like
you
a
were saying.
doctor's stethoscope when you
Yes.
listen to their heartbeat, and it's kind of muffled, but you see, it's like they took that and they kind of like, what does a heartbeat sound like in an evil person? And it would make this modular,
Yeah.
and it would just
And
be
it
this
makes sense, right?
pulsating. And it feels like, and I get it because he constantly looks at his watch because of his heart rate. He has to be calm before he gets into what he's about to get into. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's what we're hearing.
No, absolutely. And sorry, I forgot what my next point of thought was, but I'm sure I'll get to it. But Daniel, please go right ahead.
No, I was going to say something that you mentioned that I really liked, because you brought up Gone Girl, and obviously this feels like a lot of like Fincher's. Obviously, he has this repertoire of films, and he's going to bring that with him. But something that I loved so much in Gone Girl, and obviously he does again in The Killer, is that the voices that you're hearing is not narration; it's inner dialogue. It's the character's thinking process. So they're not telling you about what's happening in the movie. They're telling you about what's happening in their heads at that very moment. And especially when you have the first 30 minutes of this film where there's no one else talking but the inner dialogue of Michael Fassbender's character, it's really incredible. And it really is a testament to David Fincher's directing, that he could tell a story that is somebody's just thought process, and it is narrating the film. But it's not like narrating like Goodfellas or like a Scorsese film would. This is the inside of somebody's head in that moment, and it really makes us, and it made us all feel like we're in that moment with him. And when you tie in the score, like you were both saying with Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, giving us that score of feeling like you were his pulse and you're getting his dialogue, you really feel like you are, in the mind of a killer in that very moment.
Yeah, yeah. I also remembered what I was going to say. It was about the actors that kind of come in this movie. They have, maybe they share like one scene with him, and again, it's those vignettes that you brought up, Daniel, where you're getting these chapters in this movie, and each one has like that big boss level that you'd play in like a Hitman game, and that is that actor, and they all just leave such an impression. They might be in the movie for like 10 minutes at the most, or even 15 minutes, maybe even less, and they leave a mark. You'll be thinking about that moment. There's a brutality to the way that the action is done in this movie as well. And Anthony, one of the things that you mentioned, I know when we were walking, was you don't see a lot of the blood or the gore or the grossness that can come with a lot of what's happening, but you hear it, and it's kind of like a don't tell but you don't show but tell kind of scenario where what you're seeing is just shocking.
Don't show but hear.
Don't show
Yeah.
but hear, because the sound design in this movie is the best of the year. I loved it. I every time he'd put on his headphones or he'd open a door, or this, even when he's attaching the silencer to his sniper. And I think one of the moments that stood out to me the most was right when he put his bag down on the table in the beginning. You heard like a clunk of that bag and the weight of the straps. I was like, that must be the heaviest bag anyone has ever carried. And I had books through college and high school that I'm sure were heavier than that, but still nothing feels heavier than that backpack right now. I feel bad for his back, but I guess that's why he's also doing all those stretches and yoga poses during the time that he has. Anthony.
The sound design, it's a sound that you really feel. Like we were talking about how you don't really see a lot of the brutality, or because of Fincher loves to shoot in dark places, a lot of contrast, a lot of like neon, and taking those elements and bringing it into the scene. You don't see as much blood as you think you would see, but you feel it because the sound really impacts you as a human. Like you feel it, it hurts. Like there are parts of this where someone's running and you hear their feet running on the floorboard, and you feel it. Like, oh my god, you tense up because you feel like someone's going to tackle you. Yeah, the sound design is the best, I would say, this year. There's a really, really cool sequence where he has the headphones on and it cuts between what his inner dialogue as well as what's happening outside his head, and how the music changes to be so much louder and then so much muffled when it's in his ear and when he's listening to it. It's really, really well done, and it just helps you to tell this story of how this assassin thinks.
Yeah. So there's the sound design is something I really wanted to focus on, because I think Fincher is so selective of what sounds that we're hearing. And and Anthony, you mentioned like the diegetic music, so like we're hearing it, and then the non-diegetic music where it's like we're getting the perspective of it, like just like it's playing in the scene and the music that's he's hearing. So it's really cool how it's interwoven between each section and each scene of the film. But yeah, I think what's so interesting with the sound design in the film is, like Anthony, you said, that it hurts, and it's like it does. It's so crisp and loud, and you'll hear bones breaking, you'll hear blood dripping or guns going off, but it's almost because it's like you don't hear anything else, because Fincher is so selective of what sounds that you're hearing. You're not hearing a whole city. You're hearing very selective sounds, and it makes it feel almost a little surreal, or makes it feel like almost like it's not a real world. Like you feel like a little removed from it, but you're also just like hyper fixating on each sound. And it's almost how, Michael Fassbender's character is perceiving things. He's very fixated on whatever sounds he's immediately interacting with. It's really, really cool. And I think I'd love to see this film get nominated. I feel like it's going to be The Killer and hopefully Oppenheimer that are going to be like the leads for like those technical awards, because there's so much. And obviously, like, we're so spoiled in a year that we've gotten, Fincher, Scorsese. Sorry, listen to our main episode for that. And then Chris Nolan and so many other just massive directors dropping films this year, because 2023 is, I think, going to go down in one of the best years and one of the best like director driven years that we've had in a long time.
Absolutely.
And the script is, for someone who doesn't speak a lot, and I know there's a lot of internal dialogue, it's so well written. You never find that you're lost in the script. It treats it in such a way that everyone can understand it, but the idea of what this assassin is thinking and how he approaches, we'll say, the people that are in this story, it's amazing, because I feel like, with any other person, they would have been they probably would have spent too much on the dialogue, or you would have been annoyed with the internal dialogue of this story. With this type of writing perfection, you are always captivated of what's in his head. You always want to go back to Michael Fassbender and know, what is he thinking at this moment? Because that's I feel like a lot of people want to know, what are they thinking at this moment? It's not always like I kill and I leave. There's always something after. And I love that approach to the story, which is different and unique to an assassin movie or even like any type of action movie.
I love that you bring up the accessibility of the script, because you're right. This movie doesn't get overcomplicated. It's pretty straightforward. You should be able to kind of pick it up and understand what's kind of happening. Something that we've talked about, in the John Wick series, where they made that movie and then just became lore. It kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper until it, I think, found itself out of a hole at some point. But you look at this movie and it's just straightforward. It's an assassin. They're hired. They go kill. They have personal lives. They treat their personal lives a certain way, and that's kind of it. I remember one of our first kind of looks at this film was back. Well, I forgot what year it is now, maybe 2021, when we got that Netflix, sizzle reel of movies coming out soon or whenever. And I remember it was just the part everyone kept focusing on was we finally saw some of the killer. And I remember how they were shooting this film was the scene in the beginning when he's on the motorbike, and you're just seeing like screens all around him and lights all around him, and it's like, wow, they didn't even shoot that on an actual street. Like, that was shot. And again, Fincher has that way of where he makes these movies and you have no idea where the CG is. More than half the time, you're like, oh, like, yeah, they shot this on the street. And then little do you know, you look and it just wipes away and it's like a green screen, or he's shooting on location, but nothing really in the background is there. So he has that eye and he has that look. And again, he's coming from a world of music videos. He's coming from a world of just style. And this movie shines through and through with that.
That was that sizzle reel was actually January of this year, Shay.
Was it? My God,
I know, because I just checked, because like they shot this film middle of last year, and then the sizzle reel was January this year. The one
you're absolutely right.
But like it feels like this has been a film long in the making, right?
Yeah, I also thought it was 2022 for some reason. That's why I was like, well, it's only 1 year ago, but now it's 2023. I'm living in Anthony's world, man. Calendars don't make sense.
Live in the future. Don't live in the past.
I live in the past. Damn, there we go. That's the motto. Is there anything else that you guys want to touch on before we kind of get to our final recommendations for David Fincher's The Killer?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Dana, let's kick it off with you.
This is the highest watch it. Like, this is something that's worth your time. You're going to have, if you love David Fincher, there is so much of this film that you're going to absolutely love. I think it does get, even though it's under 2 hours, it does get loses a little bit of its steam right around the midway part. And then the ending, I think, is something that I'm hoping on a rewatch will hit a little bit more with me. But because the rest of the film is just so damn good, you're just going to get lost in this world. There's absolutely killer sound design. I wish I could give a hug to every single member of the sound department of this movie, because they just absolutely killed it. They delivered a gorgeous sounding movie. I know I'm going to keep saying killed it. But it's brutal. It's everything that you could hope for a David Fincher film. And it's a friggin' amazing performance from Fassbender, who is very stoic throughout, but man, does he look good. And you're going to keep your eyes glued to the screen with every single moment, every single sound matters in this. And it's going to be something that I think we're going to get even more as we keep re-watching it. Make sure you watch it either in theaters or on Netflix, but go watch it in the theaters because it's a damn good one.
Yeah. Anthony, what about yourself?
Like I said in the beginning, you got David Fincher, you got noir, you put them together, you got a masterpiece, and this is definitely a watch it for me. I believe this is going to be one of those films where in 5 years it'll become like one of those cult classics. And definitely. David Fincher is just known for creating cult classics, and it doesn't have to win Academy Awards to be, to be prestigious and have all these accolades in regards to it. And I don't know if it'll happen for this film, maybe technically, but I just feel like this is something that people will talk about in 5 years, 10 years, and just really gravitate to the look, the aesthetic, the feel. This is David Fincher that we haven't seen in a really long time, and we kind of missed. I think we all missed. And Michael Fassbender, his performance, again, I can't believe Dark Phoenix was his last role. He's been so missed, and I'm so glad that he's back, and I hope to have him in more of these movies. No Assassin's Creed type of movie, more of this type of movie, Mr. Fassbender. And I also want to mention Tilda Swinton. She is the chameleon of Hollywood. Her performance, as much as I think it's like maybe 10 minutes, fantastic. And just she brings like a brevity to her character and to the whole idea of what the world is around these two and the world that we are witnessing, I think is just, she's just a fantastic actress. I hope to see her more. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is a definite watch it.
Also, I just want to say really quickly, Charles Parnell as well too.
Yeah.
Who again is just starting to show up in, scenes here and there this year. Always scene stealers. Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah. Charles Parnell, fantastic. Tilda Swinton, amazing. Tilda Swinton's character reminded me a lot of Clive Owen in the Bourne Identity movies, where there's that moment of like, look at what they make you give, look at what they make you do, and it's that lasting impression that she leaves in this film, along with Charles. I think they just do such a great job in the moments that they're in this movie, and you're like, wow, like what a fantastic film. Michael Fassbender is charming in such a menacing way in this film, where he will kill to do what he has to do, but he doesn't have to do the whole Charles Xavier kind of like broodingness to it. There's this warmth to his character, which I absolutely loved. This gets the highest.
Did you say Charles Xavier, by the way?
Yeah, because when he's was it no
Eric.
Oh my God, Eric. Sorry, I was saying I was reading Charles Parnell, and I'm like, Parnell, Charles Xavier. That's my voice. Yes,
that's how he sounds.
That's how he sounds. He's from the booklet. No, but like Magneto, obviously, is who I'm referring to. That character that he plays, he's always carrying with such like intensity. Like he doesn't take a joke at all. Whereas in this one, he can kill you, but also have a good laugh about it in a way, which is just kind of weird and scary, but it works. Yes, this gets the highest watch it from me as well. I love this film. There's some things again towards the ending and some slower moments that I feel like could have been either cut out or trimmed a bit to make it just more concise. But overall, it's such a fantastic film that I can't wait to watch over and over again. This is going to be one of my most watched Fincher movies, along I think with Seven and all those other movies. I'm going to be watching it a lot to just study and understand it a bit further. And of course, give a huge shout out to our friends over at Netflix Canada for inviting us to come watch this movie. So thank you so much. That of course, The Killer will be in select theaters. Go watch it in theaters. It's worth your time in the theaters. October 27th, and it will be on Netflix November 10th. We're the Movie Podcast. You can follow us every single place at the Movie Podcast. Our show notes below have all those links and more. We also have a Discord channel that you can join and talk to us about movies and whatever's kind of going on in the world. We'd love to hear about it. Of course, that was this time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.